Hey friends, welcome back to DIY with Ashley. Today we're making this adorable plushie display pillow. It's the perfect way to organize your Labubus, Keychain Plushies, or any other tiny collectibles that you don't want to lose in your bed, under your blankets, or have fall off your backpack or purse. This project is beginner friendly and I'm going to walk you through how to put it together step by step. This pillow combines some steps from my envelope pillow and reading pillow tutorials, so if you've watched those videos, you'll notice a few familiar techniques. But today we're adding functional details such as the pockets and the hanging strap where you can keep your plushies. So let's go over the list of supplies you'll need to make this 16 by 16 pillow. The first supply you'll need is a 16 by 16 inch pillow insert. You can find this at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Amazon, or any other craft retailer. You'll also need a piece of fusible fleece that's at least 17 by 17 inches, a half a yard of your main fabric, as well as a quarter yard of your contrasting fabric. You'll also need quilting clips or sewing pins, a rotary cutter or fabric shears, an acrylic ruler and a self-healing cutting mat, an iron and an ironing board, as well as a pressing cloth, coordinating thread, a washable fabric marker, a hem guide, and if your plushies don't have clips, you can also find some on Amazon like these ones. This is totally optional, but if you do have a bias tape maker, you might want to use it when we make the straps. Alright, so let's go over our pattern pieces. We're going to need a 17 by 17 inch square of our main fabric for the pillow front. You'll also need to cut another piece 17 by 17 inches out of the fusible fleece. For the back of the pillow, we're going to need to cut two pieces out of our main fabric that are 17 inches by 13 inches. Next, we're going to cut the pocket panel out of our coordinating fabric. And we're going to cut a piece that's 6.5 inches high by 17 inches wide. For the hanging strap, you're going to want to cut a piece of coordinating fabric that is 2.5 inches high by 17 inches wide. I do recommend that you watch this tutorial all the way through once before you go and cut your pattern pieces. I did have a bit of a struggle with the height of my strap piece, so you may want to make yours a little bit taller so that it's not so difficult when you fold over those edges because they do get bulky. You can watch my struggle later in the video. Now for the loops, we'll be cutting 6 of those out of our coordinating fabric, but the easiest way to make them is by cutting a piece that is 15 inches high and 1.5 inches wide. So we'll have a long strip and then we can cut that down into 2.5 inch high sections, which we could later attach to our strap. Okay, now that we have all our pattern pieces cut out, we're going to attach the fusible fleece to the wrong side of the front pattern piece. Once that's done, we're going to grab our pocket panel and go take it to the iron so that we can iron and fold over the hem. We're going to fold over 1/2 inch and then fold over another 1/2 inch and sew close to the edge about 1/8 inch away from the bottom of the hem. Next, we're going to work on our strip and start making the loops so that we could attach them. Again, we want our strips to be at least 2.5 inches high and 1.5 inches wide. You can go ahead and make one long strip and then trim it down, or do like I did here and make small individual ones. We're going to go ahead and iron it in half with the wrong sides touching, and then we're going to open it up and fold the outside bits of the fabric to the center. So we're essentially creating a bias tape. Once you have both sides pressed to the center, you're going to go ahead and close up the strip and then iron on top of it so that everything lays flat. Once you have your strap created, you're going to want to go ahead and top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away on both sides. Again, you can do this for each individual strap, or if you make one long one and trim it down, you can go ahead and do this step first before cutting down your straps to size. With the straps top stitched, now you're ready to attach them to the strap. Okay, so this next part is gonna require a little bit of math and measurement because you're gonna wanna space these out a little over 2.5 inches apart if you have 6. I have 7, so I kind of screwed things up, but we're just gonna ignore that for now. Do as I say, not as I do. Add 6 straps and space them out about 2 2/3 inches away from each other. You're gonna wanna mark 1/2 inch from the sides so that you know where your seam allowance will start, and then that's where you begin your spacing measurements. After all the straps are nicely arranged, you're gonna go ahead and baste them to the strap so that they don't go anywhere. Now, this next part is the part where I struggled, as I mentioned in the beginning of this tutorial. Now that we have the straps attached, we're gonna fold over the top and bottom to the wrong side. Using our hem guide, we're gonna fold over 1/2 inch. This part is a little tricky because it's bulky and it's not gonna wanna lay flat, it's gonna wanna spring open, so that's why I suggested you might wanna cut your piece a little higher so that you have more room to work with, because it is a little difficult when you're folding it over. And you'll see that here. To help reduce some of the bulk, I went ahead and serged the edges so that things would hopefully lay a little bit flatter. It sort of worked. I also used my quilting clips to help keep the fabric down and in place. Alright, now it's time to arrange everything on the front of the pillow. We're going to line up the unfinished edge of the pocket piece with the bottom of the pillow front. Again, we're going to place the wrong side of the fabric to the right side of the pillow front fabric. Once we have our pocket piece lined up with the front of our pillow, we're going to go ahead and start marking where we need to sew the lines to make the individual pockets. Grab your fabric marker and mark your seam allowances on the sides so that you know where you need to start your counting as you make your lines. So we're going to mark 1/2 inch here for the seam allowance. Then we're going to measure over on the other side and mark the seam allowance on that side. Now, starting from the line where you marked your seam allowance, you want to measure 4 inches away and make a mark. That's where your first stitch line will go to make a pocket. And you're going to keep making these marks 4 inches away from each other until you have 4 individual pockets. I forgot to film this next part, but you're going to go ahead and stitch along the lines that you just drew, and make sure you extend your stitch line a little bit past the top of the pocket and do a back stitch there to reinforce the pockets. Now for the hanging strap, we're going to measure 2.5 inches down from the top of our pillow and line it up there. Then once everything's pinned and lined up, we're going to take it to our machine and sew about 1/8 of an inch away from the top and the bottom of the strap. When you're sewing this part, make sure you do it very slowly because your fabric might shift a little with all the bulk and layers, so make sure you just go slow. Now that our front piece is completely assembled, we can go ahead and put it to the side and start working on the back pieces. For the 2 back pieces, we're going to need to create a hem on the top edge. So we're going to fold over 1/2 inch to the wrong side and fold over another 1/2 inch to the wrong side, and then top stitch that down about 1/8 of an inch away from the hem. So let's take this over to our iron and get everything pressed. Alright, now that we have our hems done, we're going to go ahead and lay these right side to right side on top of the pillow front. For the envelope back, I like to have the top piece overlapping the bottom piece, so this is how I lay mine out. We're gonna attach the first back piece to the top of the pillow, making sure that we're keeping right sides together so that the wrong side of the fabric is facing you. Then we're gonna go ahead and lay the bottom piece lined up with the bottom of the pillow. Now, to make sure that these don't shift or get wonky while you're sewing them, we're going to need to use a lot of sewing pins or quilting clips to keep everything in place. And just remember that the hems are going to overlap in the middle. You want the wrong side of the fabric facing you, and the raw unfinished edges are going to be touching each other. After you've lined up all the edges and pinned everything in place, you're going to want to take this over to your sewing machine, and using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're going to want to sew all the way around the edges. Once the pillow is sewn all the way around, you're going to want to go ahead and clip your corners so that the pillow will turn out nicely once you turn it right side out. You're also going to want to finish your edges by using a zigzag stitch, a serger, or pinking shears. Then you can turn your pillow right side out and insert your pillow form. And that's it! Your plushie display pillow is ready to use. It's the perfect mix of cute and functional, and it's a great way to organize your favorite plushies, keychains, and trinkets in style. As I mentioned earlier, if you've followed along with my envelope pillow or reading pillow tutorials before, some of these steps probably felt familiar. However, if you haven't seen those tutorials yet, I'll link them in the description box below so that you can check them out next. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future tutorials. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Please let me know what characters or collections you're going to be making your pillow for. And if you do make this project, please tag me at DIY with Ashley on social media so that I can see your finished project. Happy sewing, and I'll see you in the next video.